Welcome back to Rapture Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and get ready for another story you won't forget. Let's dive back to the story. Joshua Collins woke before the city did, not because he needed to, but because silence was the only time his thoughts didn't feel like liabilities. His penthouse overlooked a river that reflected the skyline like a polished mirror, every glass tower shimmering with quiet arrogance. Joshua moved through his morning with precision, espresso measured, suit pressed, schedule memorized. Wealth had trained him to be efficient, but discipline had made him cold. At 38, he had everything that could be bought and nothing that could stay. His parents were gone, his relationships brief and transactional, his name powerful but his life strangely weightless. People respected him, feared him, admired him, but no one truly knew him. And Joshua preferred it that way. Emotion, he believed, was a weakness disguised as virtue. He had built Collins Strategic Holdings from a mid-sized firm into a global empire by trusting logic over sentiment, numbers over narratives. Yet even as he reviewed profit charts on his tablet, a faint dissatisfaction lingered, like an echo he couldn't trace. Across town, Jennifer Taylor's morning began with noise instead of silence. The kettle screamed too loudly, the radiator rattled like it might finally give up, and her 7-year-old son, Ethan, argued with gravity as he tried to pull on socks that never seemed to cooperate. Their apartment was small, 2 rooms, thin walls, and a window that faced a brick building so close it blocked most of the light. Jennifer moved quickly, calmly, masking exhaustion with routine. She packed Ethan's lunch carefully, counting slices, measuring portions, making sure he wouldn't feel different when he opened it at school. Jennifer wasn't uneducated or careless. Life had simply narrowed her options one hardship at a time. She worked 2 jobs, one at a grocery distribution center during the day and another cleaning offices at night. Her dreams of becoming a nurse had faded into a quiet ache she carried without complaint. What kept her standing was Ethan, his questions, his laughter, his trust in her strength. Joshua's day unfolded in glass-walled boardrooms and chauffeured cars. Meetings blurred together, executives nodded at his decisions, and numbers obeyed his will. But something unusual disrupted his rhythm when a junior analyst hesitated during a presentation. The young man's hands shook as he explained a minor loss, clearly terrified. The room waited for Joshua's reaction. Normally, he would dismiss weakness without ceremony. Instead, he paused. For a brief moment, he remembered his own early days, working 18-hour shifts, sleeping in his office, being dismissed by men who saw him as disposable. Joshua approved the analyst's corrective plan and moved on, but the moment unsettled him. Compassion had slipped through his armor uninvited. Jennifer's day cracked open when she received a call from Ethan's school. He had fainted during recess. Panic cut through her chest as she rushed to the nurse's office, her mind racing through unpaid bills and ignored symptoms. The nurse reassured her it was low blood sugar, but recommended a full checkup. Jennifer nodded, thanked her, and smiled for Ethan's sake. Inside, dread settled. She knew what a doctor's visit meant. She calculated overtime hours, considered selling her old laptop, wondered which bill could wait. That night, after Ethan slept, Jennifer sat at the kitchen table staring at a stack of envelopes, each one demanding more than she had. Joshua attended a charity gala that evening, not out of generosity, but obligation. His company sponsored it annually. The room shimmered with wealth and curated compassion. As he listened to polite applause and shallow speeches, his attention drifted toward the service staff. He noticed a woman helping an elderly guest, her movements careful, her voice gentle. She wasn't meant to stand out, but she did. Jennifer had taken the cleaning shift last minute for extra pay. When the guest thanked her, Jennifer smiled, not the polite smile of obligation, but something genuine. Joshua watched longer than he meant to. Their paths crossed again days later at a downtown pharmacy. Jennifer stood at the counter arguing softly with the pharmacist over a prescription she couldn't afford. Joshua, waiting nearby, overheard enough to understand. The pharmacist lowered his voice, apologetic but firm. Jennifer swallowed her pride, asked for alternatives, and thanked him anyway. When she turned, she nearly collided with Joshua. Their eyes met briefly, hers wary, his unreadable. Neither spoke. But Joshua followed her out, unsettled by the quiet dignity with which she carried disappointment. Joshua began noticing Jennifer everywhere, on the street near his office, on the late-night train, at the same grocery store where she compared prices with surgical precision. He told himself it was coincidence, but curiosity crept in. He asked his assistant, Henry, to discreetly learn more about her. What came back wasn't scandal or manipulation, just struggle, consistency, and resilience. No debt scams, no hidden benefactors, no pity plays. Jennifer Taylor lived honestly, painfully, and quietly. Jennifer, unaware of Joshua's interest, faced another blow when her landlord announced a rent increase. That night, she cried for the first time in years, silently, in the bathroom so Ethan wouldn't hear. She hated feeling fragile. The world already expected her to break. Joshua found himself thinking about her during meetings, during meals, during silence. Against his instincts, he arranged another encounter, casual, unforced. He saw her at a cafe and asked if the seat across from her was taken. Jennifer hesitated, then nodded. Their conversation was simple: work, the city, weather, but something shifted. Joshua wasn't the billionaire in that moment. He was just a man listening. Jennifer wasn't a charity case. She was a woman choosing her words carefully, protecting her dignity. When Joshua learned about Ethan's medical needs and the mounting pressure Jennifer faced, something inside him cracked. He didn't announce it. He didn't make a speech. He simply reached into his wallet one afternoon, placed his credit card on the table between them, and said quietly, 24 hours. No explanations. No conditions. Jennifer stared at the card as if it might disappear. Her hands trembled, not with greed, but fear. Joshua met her eyes, steady and sincere. Do what you need to do, he said. And walked away. Jennifer sat alone at the cafe table long after Joshua disappeared into the afternoon crowd. The credit card lay untouched between her folded hands, its weight far heavier than the thin piece of plastic suggested. People passed by, laughter drifted in from the street, and the barista wiped the counter for the third time, yet Jennifer remained still. Her mind battled itself. She had survived years without charity, had taught herself to endure humiliation quietly, had learned that help often came with strings sharp enough to cut. Joshua's offer felt different, and that frightened her more than rejection ever could. She slipped the card into her purse carefully, as though mishandling it might shatter something sacred, and walked home with measured steps, each one carrying the gravity of a decision that would shape more than just her next 24 hours. That night, Jennifer barely slept. She sat at the small kitchen table after Ethan drifted off, spreading out papers she had avoided for months, hospital estimates, overdue utility notices, a past-due tuition slip from Ethan's after-school program, and a folded brochure for a community clinic she volunteered at on weekends. She did not rush. She wrote lists, crossed out items, recalculated, and then recalculated again. The temptation to erase every burden at once pressed hard against her chest, but something deeper guided her hand. By dawn, she had a plan, not one rooted in desperation, but intention. When the sun rose, Jennifer kissed Ethan's forehead, told him she had errands to run, and stepped into the day with quiet resolve. Joshua, meanwhile, tried to bury himself in work. He told himself the gesture had been impulsive, a one-time lapse in judgment born of curiosity. Yet his focus fractured constantly. During meetings, he glanced at his phone, half expecting a notification. During lunch, he barely tasted his food. When evening came, he opened the banking app tied to the credit card, telling himself he was only monitoring risk. What he saw unsettled him, not because of excess, but restraint. Hours passed with no activity. He imagined extravagant purchases, imagined disappointment, imagined proof that his worldview was correct. The silence gnawed at him far more than recklessness would have. Jennifer's first stop was the hospital billing office. She paid for Ethan's full medical evaluation, not just the immediate tests. She listened carefully as the clerk explained nutrition requirements and follow-up care, and she asked questions, smart questions, the kind that came from years of lived responsibility. From there, she visited Ethan's school and cleared outstanding fees, ensuring he could participate fully without reminders sent home in sealed envelopes. She bought groceries, but only what they needed, choosing fresh food over indulgence. At a bookstore nearby, she paused, then purchased a nursing exam preparation guide. It was the most expensive item she bought, and her hands shook as she carried it to the counter. As the hours passed, Joshua watched the transactions roll in. None screamed luxury. None suggested exploitation. Instead, they formed a picture he hadn't anticipated: care, foresight, and self-denial. He felt something tighten in his chest. Late that afternoon, another charge appeared, this one unfamiliar. It was addressed to a local non-profit medical supply outlet. Joshua frowned, tapped the details, and leaned back in his chair, confusion overtaking suspicion. Jennifer arrived at the community clinic before closing time. She knew the director, a tired woman who fought daily battles for funding and dignity. Jennifer paid anonymously for essential equipment the clinic had postponed purchasing for years: portable monitors, basic supplies, things no donor ever found glamorous enough to fund. She asked for nothing in return, not even recognition. When she left, the director stood frozen, tears welling as she stared at the receipt. Jennifer walked out lighter than she had entered, though her purse was now nearly empty. As night fell, Jennifer returned home, cooked dinner, helped Ethan with homework, and read to him until he slept. She did not check the remaining balance. She did not feel regret. She felt peace. With 1 hour left, she walked back to the cafe where Joshua had first given her the card. She placed it on the same table, ordered tea, and waited. Joshua arrived late, breathless, composure cracked. He had driven himself for the first time in years. When he saw the card resting neatly before her, something broke inside him. He sat without speaking. Jennifer slid a folded envelope across the table. Inside was a list, not of expenses, but reasons. Why each decision mattered. Who each payment helped. What it meant to her. Joshua read slowly. When he finished, his vision blurred. He looked at her, not as a poor single mother, not as a test, but as a mirror showing him everything wealth had never taught him. "I didn't want to survive," Jennifer said softly. "I wanted to build something that wouldn't collapse the next time life pushed back." Joshua didn't trust his voice. Tears fell anyway, silent, unrestrained, unfamiliar. For the first time in decades, he felt small in the best possible way. Their relationship didn't turn romantic overnight. Trust took time. Conversations deepened. Joshua funded the clinic, not as a publicity move, but as a quiet commitment. Jennifer enrolled in nursing courses. Ethan flourished. Joshua learned to listen without fixing, to give without controlling. Jennifer learned to receive without guilt. In choosing purpose over fear, Jennifer changed Joshua's life. In choosing humility over power, Joshua found his heart. And in those 24 hours, both learned that true wealth was never about what you could spend, but what you chose to build when no one was watching. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.